So I didn't think I would be back here so soon with another 5, but then again, I wasn't doing the math, and obviously I would have had to read another 5 books before I did a wrap up if I was planning to finish 241 books. So hey, it's Paige, and I'm back to talk about the 5 books that I have read since I last did an update. I'm not going to be doing these in the order that I read them. I'm literally just going to be picking up and talking about these books. They're an eclectic mix, but I did have a really good reading week, I will say. Everything was above a 3 for me. Honestly, I just hope that most of the books that I have acquired are not duds, because it did make it easier to pick up the next book if I enjoyed the last one that I read. So let's just get into things. The first book that is on this stack that I read this week is one that surprised me. I heard that it was funny, I heard that it was a good time, but then I wasn't sure because like I'm not a huge fan of the author. I kind of like the stuff that they do, and I'm a big fan of Houseplant, but Seth Rogen's Yearbook is actually very funny, and I would highly recommend it. This is just a collection of anecdotes and stories from Seth's life. It doesn't really have a narrative arc like some other memoirs do. It jumps back and forth in time. The highlights for me were definitely the essay Acid, which is about his choices with drug use. I listened to the majority of this while I was braiding my hair, and that definitely made the time go by faster. It's about 4 hours on 2 speed, which is the only speed I listen to most books on now these days. So it's a quick read that you can pick up and like knock out in one afternoon if you have it on your shelf. But if you're looking for something that will make you laugh, this is it. Just pick this one up. So the second book that I picked up and finished this week is one that I have mentioned previously, that is Attached. I had this on my shelf because it was linked on TikTok for a minute last year, and so I had it for photography purposes and just kept it to read at some point. And that point has finally come, and I did find it very interesting. It is all about the attachment theory, and it adapts the attachment theory from childhood into romantic relationships, which is not new news. Like, people have been talking about this for forever at this point. Reading this was just a refresher, honestly, of all of my psych courses in university. So it wasn't really anything new, and it did get kind of repetitive toward the end. There were some problems where it felt very binary in the way it was labeling everyone. Instead of just using they, it would be like S-HE, and there's just like very outdated language in this book specifically. They did switch to they in the audiobook, which I transitioned to when I realized I was sort of dragging through the rest of the book. I would recommend the audiobook as a listening experience over this because it trims a lot of the fat that I found in this book. All of like the quizzes and like fill out this and think of a situation, all of that stuff. If you're just reading for the theory element of this book, listen to it on audio. It's much faster, much better. It also didn't take into consideration that there are aromantic people who wouldn't be interested in romantic relationships. It sort of framed it like everyone wants to be in a romantic relationship and this is how you can be your happiest self. So overall, just an interesting read if you are interested in attachment theory, but not really a necessary read, not groundbreaking, did not teach me anything new really. The third book that I finished this week is from an author that I've read a lot on this channel, and that is Jasmine Guillory. I've had Drunk on Love on my shelf because Jasmine is, as much as she's a hit or miss author for me, it has been more hit than miss. Some of her earlier wedding date stories were kind of repetitive, but this one takes place in Napa Valley, which is completely different from the other areas that she normally focuses on in the LA area. And I enjoyed the 2 characters who are at the center of this story. It's about a vineyard owner and a guy who leaves his tech job and is in Napa Valley to figure out what his next steps are. It is a little bit of a workplace romance because they hook up and then he realizes that he is actually working for her now. And there is a little bit of a fake relationship element to it with him and a friend. Honestly, it was a fun time. It was a good read. Like, I wasn't hating it. I was listening to it also while I was braiding my hair after I finished Yearbook, but I did find that the miscommunication trope, which is always in these books, was especially annoying because I had just read Jane Igharo, who doesn't fall into the miscommunication element to create drama for the 3rd act. So I wasn't really a huge fan of the last third of this book. The 4th book will not come as a surprise because I did mention at the end of my last wrap up that I would be reading this one, and that is Where We End and Begin by Jane Igharo. Of the 3 Jane books that I've read, this is my least favorite, but only because Second Chance Romance is a hit or miss for me. And I think that's because it has the pre-established relationship and you don't really get to enjoy seeing the couple get to know each other. So this one sort of combated that by giving us flashbacks from specifically the male protagonist's perspective. Like, all of his perspective was in flashbacks while all of the female protagonist was the current time period. There was a plot twist at the end of this book that made my jaw literally drop while I was making dinner and listening to this book. It still really is well written. It's just that the other 2 books that she's written fall more into tropes that I enjoy, and therefore I just ended up enjoying them more. Still recommend reading Jane, as you would have heard in the other video that I did about all 3 of her books. You should watch that if you want more in-depth thoughts on this one. And then the 5th book that I finished this week, though not the last, the other one will be in the next update, is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I cannot believe I am sitting here today to say I enjoy all of Cassandra Clare's books, apparently. This is something that I'm learning about myself. It is too long. As much as I was enjoying this book, I was like, how am I reading for 2 hours every day? And there's still, it felt like there was always 100 pages more that I needed to finish. I can't remember the last names of any of these people because I've read 50 million books and they are all the same family. Carstairs? Is she a Carstairs? We're going with Carstairs. She and her Parvati live in the Institute in LA, and there are people who are being murdered and turn up dead. They think they're ritualistic sacrifices that are happening for like some greater scheme that they are trying to uncover. And I honestly really was more so here for the side characters in this one. I was here for Christina, I was here for Mark. That's who I care about. That is who I will be reading for. Emma and Julian, I think is the other guy, as the main guy's name. They were fine. They were classic Cassandra Clare protagonists, and that means they were not as interesting as the side characters. But I'm glad we're still getting Christina and Mark's perspectives as well in this. I will be continuing the series for them in 2024 or maybe 2023 if I get through all of these books. I was doing the math with my roommate recently, and I realized I would have to have the pace of reading a book a day to finish all of these books in the time that I'm hoping to finish them by. So pray for me. Is how I'm gonna end this video.